This is episode 185 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 185 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Marko Agbaba on the show, and Marko's been on the show before. He's a guy that just grinds and hustles. He's one of those guys that you're not going to shake his determination. Marko's accomplished a ton in a very short time. He's just about to turn 26 years old. He's already got a multi-million-dollar net worth. He's building massive student rental developments and showing no signs of stopping. So we went through a couple of case studies in today's episode. We talked about a front back, a fourplex with a tiny home on the back of it. And it's going to have over 35 bedrooms in total with ensuite bathrooms for all. This is something that Marko's doing to get exceptionally high rents in the student rental market in Windsor, Ontario. And he's also done this type of model with other builds, and he's got multiple more in the pipeline. And he's finishing up with very low loan to values. He's doing perfect BRRRRs, and he's roughly at a 60% loan to value when he's done. So there's massive amount of equity in these projects. He's got a very interesting angle, and it's similar to stuff that I used to do in the student rental market. And of course, Marko and I have talked for years about this stuff. So I'll take a little bit of the credit as given some of that inspiration, but of course, Marko ran with it and did everything all on his own. Really impressive guy, and it's always great to have a conversation with him. So I know you're going to enjoy this episode. I know I've built it up here for you, but it's well worth the listen. We also did dig into some economics and what we think is going to happen. What are the factors at play here? Always a good discussion to have when the market's doing the crazy stuff it's doing right now. As always, ask you to hit all the buttons here. Make sure you're subscribed, liked, comment as well. Get this video out to more people. And then of course, if you're an audio listener, if you could leave a 5-star review and a rating, that obviously helps it to get to more people, gets picked up by the algorithm and recommended for other people in the real estate space. So thank you for all of that. Let's jump into episode 185 with Marko Agbaba. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I've got Marko Agbaba on the show yet again. Twice
now, yeah.
Yeah. Drove all the way from Windsor, so thank you for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure to come on. So,
yeah, Marko, you're just so busy crushing out real estate, doing things most people don't do, building new construction, development. This is a territory that a lot of people are afraid to get into. You got into it in your mid-20s. Yeah. So I'd say you're off to a good start.
Late 20s now, soon, 26. So.
Oh my, yeah, just getting so old. That's, man, 10 years younger than me.
Is that so? 10 years?
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, well, no, I'm glad you say that. But anyways, man, yeah, development properties, how'd you get into that?
Man, it's just something I always wanted to do, right? So since I was 17, 18, I saw the first crane. And like, I come from a very small town of 1,000 people. So seeing cranes is not something that we see. Like, I don't remember the last time there's been new construction. Yeah. That's like a custom home, right? So for me, I just got super excited about it. I really wanted to do it. So I kind of just told this guy that I'd work for free for him. I was like, I'll clean floors, whatever you want. He's a real estate developer at the time. I just want to be around you. Like, don't even worry about mentoring me. Just let me be like around you to see how this stuff works. So I knew like really early on that that's what I wanted to do. And so I just kind of kept going after it until I got it.
Yeah. And you had sort of shared similar sentiment when we first talked. I know you were, like you're obviously an avid learner. You want to pick up stuff, but I know you want to do it yourself too.
Yes. Yeah.
You're always adamant about that. No, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, you know what? I'm starting to get bad at that because I realized I actually do legitimately everything myself, like even to the point where I'm the realtor for like the land when I buy it. And I'm like, I really got to start using other people. Like,
why,
it's just
you're a realtor. Why would you need to use somebody else?
I know, but you know what? When you do everything yourself and you don't have employees, it just eventually you're kind of just like, you're doing a million different things every single day. I feel like I have like 10 different jobs on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So
yeah. What's your typical day look like right now?
It's every single day is completely different. So it's kind of cool because when you wake up in the morning, it's like, you're pretty excited because you don't know what can happen today, but you know, I'm a leasing agent, I'm a real estate agent, you know, I'm a construction manager, I'm a developer, so I'm going into the city meetings, plus some construction management, so literally everything.
Minor variances as well on your projects?
Yeah, so pretty much everything I've done, not pretty much, every single thing that I've ever done, I've had to get at least a minor variance for. So I always show up to those myself and kind of take care of those myself too.
So you write up the proposal and sketch it out and go into the meeting?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I know we talked about this early on. You had you had a connection in the city planning office, right?
Yeah. You know what? connection doesn't really work that much. I mean, they still suck to deal with. Maybe it's a little bit better for me, but it's not that helpful.
But you're representing yourself in these meetings, which that's never the easiest thing.
Yeah, I find it the opposite. I find that is the easiest thing because, nobody knows the project better than I do. Nobody knows.
Sure, but I mean, you're arguing what fits with the bylaw, right? You're arguing that it's minor in nature, which I guess if you have the definitions isn't the biggest deal.
I'm a big believer, and if you're going to go into a battle, make sure you're going to win. So like, I don't really pick any losing battles. So like everything that I'm going into, someone else has already either done something similar, or I can pick out to the street. Like for example, let's say I'm doing a minor variance on a 25-foot frontage versus 35, whatever it needs to be. And I know already that 60% of that street is built on 25-foot frontages. That's kind of like an unlosable battle.
Yeah, because you would just be conforming to everything else there.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't really try to do anything too crazy that doesn't make sense at all for the neighborhood. And if I propose something and the city gives me that kind of feedback where it is unreasonable, I'll just get creative and figure out a way to make it more reasonable so that we keep that 100% win streak alive.
Okay, so are you circulating it unofficially to the city before you officially submit for a minor variance?
No, but so pretty much what happens is you bring it to the planning committee first. It's like a pre-submission is what it's called. So they circulate it amongst themselves before you actually go into the minor variance.
They do that for your minor variance, okay.
Yeah, and for planning, and for rezoning. They'll always do that in the city of Windsor.
Not every city does that,
Yeah, maybe varies. I've only built in Windsor, so they'll tell you right off the hop, be like, look, that's not going to happen, or maybe it'll happen, but it's going to take us 12 months to find out whether it's possible or not. So based off of that feedback, you can kind of adjust. And go from there.
High level, like what do you got in your portfolio right now? I know there's a lot of construction development in that.
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I just built a new one. We were on the podcast talking about it last year, like 12 months ago. Okay. So that one was completed, rented out as of January. Right now I'm building a 9-unit, 39 bedroom, 37 bath development.
And that's the two separate buildings,
correct,
the tiny home in the back.
Well, three. Technically, it's three.
3 buildings?
Yeah, 3 buildings. And then...
on one lot?
2 lots.
2 lots? Okay.
Yeah, so I split that one. Maybe we'll go into that after.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
And then January of this year, which is like, 8 months away from now or 7 months away?
Okay.
I'm starting 3 more developments that will be another 39 bedrooms and 39 baths. So got a little bit on the plate right now.
Already secured it?
Yeah, well, the land's already done. I just got the minor variances for it. So right now I'm just on building permit stage, but I'm building the same thing I've already built. So I'm just actually transferring the floor plans and everything. Yeah, I'm just building the same thing. So it's,
So the one with the tiny home.
Yeah.
That is, what's the big building's the one on the front. Tiny home in the back.
Yeah.
What's the big building?
So the big building's 4-plex. So it's 2 6-bedroom units and then 2 3-bedroom units. And everything I build has private bathrooms. So just whatever bedrooms I say, just that's the same amount of bathrooms that there's going to be in the development.
Oh, okay. I remember we talked about this. You weren't going to do that originally.
I know. A lot of back and forth between you and I.
Yeah. Okay. I remember you weren't going to go down that route. I remember we were going over some of your earlier plans, and it was just more. I think the one we kind of went over was like a 6-bed up top and a 3-bed in the basement, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's the one I built back on the last.
And it's all done.
Episode. That one's all done.
Yeah. And rented out.
Correct.
And it cash flows $1 billion a month.
No, it's just under $3,000 a month. That one.
$3,000 a month positive cash.
Yeah, because when you and I spoke on the podcast last time, the numbers I used were quite a bit under what I was going to get, and I did that by design because you just don't want to say a number then I don't get it, right? So I'd rather say it's less than. Yeah, so I ended up getting it renting them for more than what we expected, so the cash flow is a little higher.
Like what on a per bedroom?
So if I don't have a private bathroom, I'll ask for $800 per month. And that seems to be readily accepted by the market. I know. It's
That's
crazy.
Way higher than London.
It seems so strange even asking for it, but it's just, there's such a demand for it, to the point where I always have more offers on my last room than there are rooms available. So
and are you just filling this up with random people?
Yeah, that's the way I do it right now. It's kind of copying from the Waterloo scale. Like for my 3-bedroom units, which now I have a lot of, 3-bed, 3 baths, those ones I'll rent per unit. But for the 6 beds, I find it's a little bit better to do per room. So en suites, I'm gonna release them for $895 each for this next project.
Wow.
Yeah.
$895. So only $100 per unit. I feel like you can get more of a premium. But if you're piecing it together, I think that makes sense. Why
I think I can get more as well. It's one of those things again where I hope that next year when I'm on here, I say, oh yeah, I surpassed what I said on the podcast.
So I had one that I sold that I had at $860 a bedroom. The guy I sold it to.
Is that the Sunset one?
Yeah. He got $1,250
per room. $1,250 per room.
Yeah.
Wow.
But in fairness, it's like the best student rental.
Wow, that's crazy
in
though.
London.
It is crazy if you think about it. $1,250 per bedroom.
Per bedroom. Yeah, insane.
It's insane.
So I had good cash flow on it. Now he has great cash flow on it.
You know what though? I always think of it in this way. So when we first started in Waterloo, renting out these rooms, we were doing like $950 per 1-bedroom apartment, luxury 1-bedroom apartment. And I remember when we raised it to $1,000, I'm like, no one's gonna want this. It's way too high. And now those same 1-bedrooms are going for $1,700, $1,800 per month. In Waterloo. So it's just, you kind of got to get that thought out of your head of being so worried about charging more.
Yeah, I think there's been a natural push up in everything, right? Because all rents have gone up.
Yeah.
Housing prices have gone up. So I think that it was natural that the student rental pricing was going to get a good hard push over the last couple of years. And it seems to have started to really happen.
Well, the thing I look at too is like, so if I'm going to do a per bedroom rental, I'm not really competing with another 4-bedroom house or a 5-bedroom house.
Yeah.
Really what I'm competing with is studio apartments and 1-bedroom units.
Yeah.
So if I can provide, you know, a product at that level of luxury, your private bathroom.
Well, yeah, that works a lot for that.
So now I'm competing with that price point, which is like $1,500 in Windsor for like a good quality 1-bedroom unit. So now my $900 doesn't seem so ridiculous anymore. Now it kind of seems like a good deal. Right?
Yeah, the only thing is they're sharing a kitchen.
Sharing a kitchen, but with students, you got to be careful with it because students are typically not spending much time in the kitchen anyway. The main thing is the bathroom that they want. So if you put it in the bedroom for them, that takes care of that. And the second thing is how clean is it going to be in the common area. But if I have a biweekly maid that comes in and cleans that for them, that's now addressed as well, right? So I find that I'm putting them in a better product, a better quality product than they would get in a 1-bedroom unit. Your sacrifice is you share a clean kitchen. But the benefit is you're right next door to the University of Windsor, which you don't have in a 1-bedroom apartment, and your price is almost half. So it seems to do well. Yeah.
Well, it's a good proposition. I always thought as soon as you go with en-suites, now all of a sudden you open up the options. You can just rent it out to a lot more different people, and like you say, they could be randoms and they won't be as hesitant because they're not sharing a bathroom they can just stay in their bedroom. They've got a mini fridge in the bedroom, hopefully not a hot plate, otherwise your insurance won't cover you.
Yeah, it's in my lease. It says no hot plates, but we'll see what happens.
Hey, at least it was in the lease. But you know, you kind of make sure you cover your bases that way, and then they don't worry. Like, I got my own bedroom. I'm good. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, and like a lot of students are either gonna have a meal plan on campus or they're gonna skip the dishes for most. Like, I'm just thinking like the great thing about me being 26 is like I literally graduated like 2-3 years ago, right? Yeah. So I kind of can just think back to like, what were you like 3 years ago? Like I'm kind of the client.
You graduated at like 21, or you go to school late?
Well, I took 5 years to graduate. I did two degrees on it. Yeah. So I don't know, 22, 23. How old am I now? 26. It's like 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
COVID really skips over time. Like you have no concept of time anymore.
You had already worked though when we started talking, and that was like 3 years ago.
I was working during, like I worked 2 jobs throughout my whole 4-year degree. So. Yeah.
Okay. And you studied business and economics?
Economics and financial management.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to talk about stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
And I just don't want to skip over what you're doing. So obviously, like, just insane, like how quickly you're like, I just wish I had the common sense to get into real estate when I was that young. Like I didn't think about it like that yet. I mean, I guess I did buy my first property at 24, but I like the knowledge base that you've had access to, like I was just buying like little crappy single families at that age.
Well, you know what, for me, it was like, there's one gentleman, I won't say his name, but he had, when I left Waterloo, which is 3 years ago, I guess, he had like 3,000 student rooms. Yeah. And like, I made it like a personal thing where I wanted to beat him, but he was very old, like he's in his 60s. So I want to beat him while he's still alive. So it's a constant push because it's like, you might think that I'm doing well. Like I look and it's like, oh, I'll only have 90 bedrooms by September of next year. Like, we're still pretty far off. So I don't know. I don't really feel like it's going as quickly as I'd like to. Yeah.
So it's really just a competition.
I'm a very competitive person. Yeah. So I would like to win if I can. Yeah.
Of course, man. Of course you can. That's the thing. Like, and think about it for him, like, although the knowledge base wasn't there, it was probably far easier for him to get to the number than it will be for you. So
who knows? You know, I always, I never look at it like that. Like whenever someone says someone has an advantage, I always think, well, I have an advantage on them. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure I have something that they don't have, right? So for me, I throw that stuff out. You know, it's even Steven, one-on-one competition, and let's see who wins.
Oh yeah, who cares about it? Like, there's never an excuse. At the end of the day, like you can look for reasons that you can't do something, or you can look for reasons that you can. Yeah. And clearly, you're doing the latter. So
yeah, for sure. Why not? We have everything we need.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so let's just kind of break down the one. Well, actually, you said you had about 3,000 cash flow on the one you finished.
Yep.
And then everything else in your portfolio before that was all like just light cosmetic reno, didn't do much?
No, the last thing I did when we were on your
finished a
podcast too was
basement.
that duplex. That was pretty expensive. Cost me like probably $100,000. I sold that. I did really. Do you want to talk about that one really quick
Sure,
before we go on? Well, let's go really surface level numbers,
Yeah.
but just because it's crazy. So I bought that right when the pandemic started, so everyone was terrified. Like I didn't compete with any offers on it. I think I bought it for $320,000. I put $100,000 into it,
Yeah.
so let's say $420, and I sold it for $900,000.
Oh, wow.
And this is like in a span of 8 months, 9
Really?
months.
Holy
yeah.
crap.
So like that was ridiculous. That particular
So
deal.
a little $400,000 upside.
Yeah, I made more on the new development, but I did them kind of at the same time.
Well, the new you didn't sell though.
No, but just on the refi, right? Like
Okay,
the profit's still there.
You pulled more out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the valuation you got on the
1035, so $1,035,000.
$1,035,000?
I think on the podcast I might say like 800,000 or something.
Okay, so
like
$1,035,000, and what did you have into it?
$450 is what it cost me to build, and then
Plus
I profited
the lot?
$90,000 on the lot because I actually made $90,000 to take the lot.
How do you mean you made?
Because I bought the lot, both lots for $260. I
Yeah.
severed it, sold the existing house for $360
Okay.
minus fees.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's
So
how
the
that
market
worked.
sort of blessed you. So no cost on
For
that
one.
lot.
Yeah, negative 90 for that lot.
Yeah. You're associating it. Yeah. No, that's good. I like that. So you only had like 300 into it, and you got a valuation of over $1
$350.
million.
Yeah, so I maybe made $650, $700 on that.
Yeah. Now, what did you pull out in refi on that?
So I actually did like really under levered. Like actually, I'm gonna do it for all my developments, but I only do 60% LTV.
Just take 60, keep the
Yeah,
cash flow high.
take 60. Especially now, it's funny because everybody loves debt when you have negative interest rates, real rates. Well, we still technically have negative
We
real
still
rates.
do. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But assuming inflation is not bonkers crazy, when you get an interest rate like a 5-year fixed of 6%, maybe you don't love having as much debt as you did when it was like 2.5%, 3%.
Oh no, not at
right?
all. Yeah, and again, we'll dig deeper into
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I don't disagree. Like I think that there's it was hard to predict what would happen because of how irresponsible government's been up to this point.
Yep.
So you and I would talk rationally. We'd say, well, there's only one responsible thing to do in a circumstance like this. However, we can't attribute our government to being responsible because they aren't. They're something else. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
So that's why we've kind of like talked to like, oh, you think this, I think this. It's more of a, it's not based on the fundamentals. It's based on as what they're actually going to do versus what they should do. So yeah, we'll dig into that a bit more. Okay, so that one obviously was very good. Cash flows very well. It doesn't matter if your value goes up or down. Your cash flow is there.
Yeah, I don't really care because I hold these assets. I look at this much more like a business than I do like real estate investing, for example. So I don't really care what the price is because I'm not really looking to sell my business. Like I'm building a student housing business. So if in 5 years it's worth less or more, it just really doesn't matter to me. It's what's the fundamentals of the business. Yeah, how much is the business producing on the equity that I have left in the deal? Yeah. That's what I care about.
And how likely is it to repeat these type of acquisitions?
Well, if we talk about the next one, it's by like a factor of like 3 or 4 times better than the last development. So we'll probably jump into the numbers surface level at least.
No, we will. That. I mean, are you still able to find these type of deals?
Yeah, but you know what? It all comes down to in 12 months, what's the interest rate at? What's the market value of the real estate at? And what's the cost of construction? It's just such a weird time like that where it's like, if I could buy the land now and finish construction in a day, yes, I could do this deal again. Yeah. But where do those values take us in 12 months?
I think the natural market reaction is going to be to people who are going to start a build are not going to now. So demand for lumber, all these building materials goes down.
I think so too.
Hypothetically, a lot of construction costs are going to come down as a result of the higher interest rates. That's a hypothetical, should happen. The market force should dictate that would happen. Will it? Who knows?
I have a comment for that, but I feel like we're going to have a segment of economics, so maybe I'll wait.
The economics segment.
Wait for that.
What's your comment?
Well, I just think that a period of stagflation is the most likely scenario.
We are in stagflation now.
Exactly, yeah. So with that being said, and I understand that the demand for construction products will decrease a little bit, but I don't think that the overall cost of construction will come back to a reasonable point.
No, I'm not saying, I don't think reasonable, but I mean, we used to be like, $250 for a 2x4x8. Now we're $6. We were as high as 15.
Yeah, it got a little bit crazy. And I think everything is a little bit crazy. Like even when you look at, for example, GTA, that's decreased 15% in 3 months. It's not a real 15%. It's just those crazy highs that weren't realistic
it was like the peak,
anyway.
Right? Because we're still up on the year probably.
Exactly. We have no rationale of what intrinsic value is on these assets. So we cannot make a comment to base where values are now. It's still kind of fugazi, right? So we'll have to see.
Fugazi?
Yeah, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy. Have you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, where have I heard that? Yeah, I agree. Like, there's so many things that don't line up with any sort of fundamental for me, like in the market right now. Like back in the day when we started all this, I was the one saying, you can't do this. You can't tell people to stay home because we're going to drive inflation through the roof, right? You're printing money and stopping production of goods and services. That's a horrible combination. That's going to just create inflation. But it didn't do it right away. People banked that money, and then when they started spending the money and things opened up, then that really drove inflation.
Yeah, I think it was just terribly handled, and like I don't like saying that because like I'm a 26-year-old kid. Where could I do a better job? I don't think that I probably could, but
I think you could.
But it wasn't done very well.
But I mean, think about it. You and I can have this conversation and be completely right. And I've had people say to me, "I've been listening to you since the beginning of all this, and like everything you said came true."
Yeah, I felt the same way as well. Yeah. But how many times does that happen out of 5? I don't know.
I think it happened a lot because I think these issues were very obvious.
Yeah.
So then you look at it, it's either malice or stupidity on the part of the government. I think it's a nice combination of both. It seems hard to believe that level of stupidity could exist at that level. I agree that. I agree. I don't believe, like, so many people like to argue, well, that it's that old razor. I forget which razor it is, but never attribute to malice what you could attribute to ignorance.
A lot of times decisions are made, and I look at the TV watching the decision, I'm like, better. There's no way that you don't know better.
Well, a politician's job or a politician's number 1 and number 2 concerns, I saw this quote the other day, are getting elected and getting reelected.
Yep.
So everything else falls after that.
Yeah.
It is not of concern.
That's what I mean by I don't know if I could do a better job, because I'm not in their shoes. And until I'm in their shoes, I don't know, right?
Yeah, it made me lose any little bit of faith I had in the system, to the point where now I just assume everything's inverted and upside down.
You can't count on them for sure. That was a big growing stage for me too, where like the obvious isn't necessarily going to happen. So you always have to assign a realistic probability to multiple scenarios, right? You can't be certain that the logical scenario will happen. That was a learning curve for me. Which is the hardest
part now, right? So I'll go on Mark's channel or whatever. We'll talk. Well, what do we think is going to happen? I'm like,
his channel is actually my favorite to watch, I think, for like updates and stuff.
Yeah. What are our bases for assumptions? Are we going to assume that people are logical, the government is logical and following sound principles, or are we going to assume that what's been happening will continue to happen? So this is why, I mean, you've got a government that handed people money and was everyone's best friend, and now they're increasing interest rates and breaking the backs of the middle class. The people who are trying to buy houses, bought in the peak, and now getting hurt.
Well, only the over-levered in the middle class really get hurt during these things, because it's really hard to lower that wealth gap, because the people, I'm not saying that all rich people are smart inherently, but they're usually quite clever, the ones that do well the proper way. So it's hard to really lower that gap by like doing things like this, because they're going to kind of figure out what's happening and adapt to that. So it's really the middle class
that don't have assets
that really get hurt on it. And it's difficult because
it increases the gap, right?
Yeah. And it's like little things like, when your cost of life pretty much is inflating 20%, I think that's a realistic number to say, between
20 to 25.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. That's pretty challenging for a lot of people. It's just too bad to see.
It is. Yeah. And I don't like seeing that. So, I thought, we have government debt at a very large quantity. They've racked up, half a trillion.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years. So, now we're looking at higher interest rates on all that debt because interest rates rise. Then we're looking at people who, yes, they passed a stress test, so they had this buffer of interest rate from the 2% they were getting, and they were qualifying at 5.2 or whatever it was. Theoretically, that should cover them.
Theoretically.
Except for, all these landlords who bought, have properties that met the DCR and they were okay.
But keep in mind, that's only accounting for interest rates. So that's only your cost of
debt.
What
about all your property taxes,
your hydro,
your insurance?
Your utilities?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of things.
Those are the things that create the challenges. Right. And so when I think about this happening, if you think about like real inflation, like what it actually is,
it's definitely in the double digits.
It's definitely. I mean, I've been saying like we're like 20% for a while now, and I think that we are realistically right now, even if we're not fully there. But I think we were, even before all of this, we were probably more like a 5 or a 6 ever since 2008.
You're a Peter Schiff follower, I think.
I've listened to a bit of Peter Schiff. I mean, I don't.
That's
I
his
don't
opinion
like,
as well.
I don't overdo it with him, but I
Yeah.
agree with a lot of what he says, because a lot of what he says makes very logical sense. And so if we're in this position now, if they increase the interest rates, obviously they're going to scare people and they're gonna back things off. But can you actually conquer a 20% inflation with a 3% interest rate?
They have absolutely no chance of conquering inflation
Unless you create enough fear. So I've long said that the triggering event would be one where people would lose their pensions or they would lose their investment portfolio, and it would actually create a meaningful change in their behavior. That's what's needed to actually change inflation, is they actually have to create a meaningful change in people's behavior. And the unfortunate part of that is that can take a catastrophic event.
Or great use of media. Like, I mean, you saw during the pandemic how much it matters, media, to the point where like, oh, people will change their behaviors based off of that, right? So, and I think they're doing a great job of it right now. Like, if you look at any news station, it's all about how the economy is coming down and how housing prices are coming down, everything. And you can kind of look at it and be like, okay, this will change behavior. And like, being a real estate agent, I see the change in the market, and it's catastrophic. It's huge.
Well, yeah, you've had quite a correction, although would you say you're under the starting year price for average pricing?
No, we're not there yet. And like I said, it's impossible to know an actual market value of where we're at. Like, a lot of it's fear, and like the fear comes from the seller as well, that just wants to get rid of it because they think the price is going to zero. You have a couple savvy investors. I see some deals that come by. I'm like, oh, that was a fairly good deal. I think the seller must have been scared, right? So those things all influence the price. So I think it'll probably take us 12 to 16 months to figure out where we really are in terms of market price.
Yeah, who knows? Could be even longer.
Yeah,
I mean, real estate's not like the stock market. It doesn't just happen, as quickly as it's been happening for the stock market.
Except for REITs. Sometimes I like to look at REITs.
REIT pricing?
To see what's being factored in current times. And like, you have Capri, for example, which I invested in when I was like 17 years old or something like that. I still hold it just because sentimental value, but it's down like 25% year over year. And it's just like an index of Canadian apartment buildings, right?
Sounds like an opportunity.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't done the in-depth math of their portfolio to know, but
buy the dip.
I learned sometimes, So don't, whoever's watching this at home, don't say that I told you to buy it.
We don't give you advice on this show. We just talk. So where were we? We were kind of predicting what will happen, how long it will take to happen. Obviously the lever to control is going to be interest rates. There's other things they can do, regulations, which they are doing, like Airbnb regulations. Those are happening now. Who knows what they're going to cap increases in rental rates too. That could have effects. There's a lot of things that could come into play here. I guess the question is, is it going to be enough fear created by these marginal interest rate increases to lower their consumer price index, to lower the growth in it? So that's really what it'll come down to. But my goodness, to think of, another 3/4 basis point or another 3/4% hike in July. I mean, by the time this airs, we'll be into July already, so we'll know if that happened. And then more on top of that, I don't think, because of the fear mechanism, I don't think that they need to go that much higher. I think, maybe another point on top of that, and we see a really meaningful change. But then we're going to have to see prices come down a bit.
Could you know what?
25%.
I spent a lot of time and a lot of mental energy before trying to predict these things and trying to get a better grasp. And then I thought, what is a better use of my time? Let's assign a realistic probability to the three likely scenarios that are there. Make sure that I'm covered for the three scenarios, and put myself in a position where I'm not playing defensive because you don't want to be, especially if you want to win, if you really want to win, you can't be defensive. You have to play moderately aggressively. So put myself in a position where if the worst case scenario happens, that I'm fine and I'll move forward. And let's spend no time thinking about the macroeconomic situation, because I won't know, because anything could happen.
Too many people have to make decisions for it to happen, right? It's policy decisions that are going to affect it.
And you always have like an outlier where it's like another pandemic or a huge, environmental problem, or, a government leader decides to bomb someone that shouldn't be bombed. These things are out of my control and will completely throw off my model. And I can't assign, I can't assign any. So I have to just be realistic with what I can control and focus on the things I can control and make sure that I can move the business forward. Right.
Okay, one thing I wanted to mention is I think the one wrench in this whole properties coming down, and when you messaged me why I didn't think it was going to come down quite as much, is we still have the immigration. We're still bringing people to this country. We still don't have enough houses. And as the rental rates come up, as these people who would be buyers rent instead, it's going to also push people back towards buying. So it could dip and then come back up. So it's hard to say that things are going to go down and stay down. I think that in the short term, anything's possible. We could have a 50% correction in the short term, but it's about the longer term. I mean, I know back in 2008, credit crisis hurt things a lot more, brought things back down a lot longer. The 91 correction kept things down a lot longer. For values to get back up, it took a lot longer, but we never had the immigration that we have now. And if you look at like a place like Japan, real estate consistently going down, but they don't allow people to immigrate to their country. Like you don't immigrate to Japan.
Well, look, there's no question about it in the long term.
Yeah, things have to go up.
Things will go up, and it's a great business to be in. And you know what? In our lifetimes, Andrew, and we're both pretty young. In our lifetimes, that will be the case, that the population will be rising. After that, things could change. Just the way it's exponential growth, right? Population, it's both down and up is exponential. Yeah. So after my lifetime, my child's lifetime, I don't know that the population will increase every single year. Not yet. I don't know. I don't think I do. So for our lifetime, it's a business that I want to be in. So I'm not really worried about these debt cycles, because as long as I can stay afloat during those times, which means don't be over levered, have enough cash on hand, and make sure that your businesses make sense, that you're buying in. And then, you know what, save yourself some nights of sleep. Don't worry too much about the macroeconomic side of things. Oh,
and you're in a good position. Like you're doing it textbook, right? Being in Windsor, having the cash flow opportunity that you do, and then making really smart moves on top of it. You're well positioned. You have huge cash flow buffer in these properties. Doesn't matter where the property values go. We know in recessions, people still go to school. So unless something bad enough happens that shuts down the campuses for an extended period of time, it seems like you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? I think student housing is one of the greatest inflation hedges, because I have annual turnover. So I can really increase the rents. Yeah, it's pretty well annual. I mean, right? So actually the way I set up the leases, and there'll probably be a paralegal that comments like, that's not legal, but whatever, it is what it is. So pretty much the way I set it up is a 12-month term. We sign on 11s together, and we sign a piece of paper, your mom, your dad, me, and you, saying that this lease ends at the end of this 12 months. And I even have this thing that says, like, regardless of LTB and LTA. I know that's not going to fly in a core law, but for 99.9% of people, it won't get to that point. So pretty much it's an annual cutoff. And then at the end of that year, if we want to renew, we'll renew at the new prices for that year. So it's just the way I set up my personal student housing portfolio, where it's an annual turnover of rents. And I think in a high inflation period, there's really nothing better than that. So if inflation, which is, I'd say realistically over the next half decade, I could be wrong, but it'll probably be around a 4 to 5% inflation rate over the next half decade.
Assuming they stop doing the spending, right? Yeah. If they keep spending like they were, printing money.
They will keep spending, Andrew, because they're at a deficit. They're at a deficit. What are they going to do
if they keep deficit spending like that? I think it's going to have to be more.
Well, who do you have in power right now? Liberals and Democrats. Are they gonna lower that deficit? No, probably not. So that will happen, but I think realistically you'll probably be at a 5.
If they just if they did nothing, no interest rate hikes at all, and they just put interest rates back to like 2% or whatever, it would come down eventually. Like as long as they stop spending. If they just stopped, eventually the inflationary effect of that money would stop. Of course. But if they keep doing it, it never stops.
But they will keep doing it because austerity is the other option. They're not going to do that. They're not going to decrease government spending. So they haven't even put in, like if we're talking U.S., which realistically that's what matters, they haven't even started the infrastructure bill yet, like putting that money to use.
Oh, yeah.
Like that still has to come. That's, we won't go too deep into it, but I feel like the fact that some people think inflation will disperse is pretty ludicrous to me. I find it very unlikely.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, the moral of the story is obviously own assets, but own assets that can hedge against this. Yeah. And I always used to think, student rentals were like the perfect hedge. Nothing's perfect, but they're a good hedge. They're
well, the downside is you're susceptible to interest rates. That's the downside of student housing. It's a levered asset class.
Well, the thing I don't like about it is, especially with mine, was that they were all so purpose built. Like they would not cater well to families. And I didn't feel like they had a great pivot. And for me, I'd rather have a mix. I don't want that to be the concentration of my portfolio. It's great as a piece. I didn't want it to be the whole thing. And so I wanted to diversify a bit more. I had James Fernandez on here earlier talking about his investments in storage lockers, and I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing, because in a downturn, when people are selling off their houses, they store stuff.
Yeah, the
when things are good.
diversification's cool. I'm at the stage where it's like, I want to play in a big league where it's whether it's billions. My real goal is to be a trillionaire, but let's say it's billions or something. The only way I'm going to get there is by in my 20s and 30s to win at one thing, because I can't be the best at storage.
Yeah, I can't get it.
I can't be the best at everything, but I can maybe be the best at one thing. So if I can drive that home and then
I get you.
use the capital to lever and turn it into a conglomerate where I buy other companies, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think I need to be all in on one thing first.
I think focus is fantastic. Yeah, and that's similar to how I started it up. I focused on student rentals, like when I really got serious about real estate. And it's a great asset class, man. It's a great way to make a lot of money.
I like it.
I actually find it's so easy to deal with student tenants. Like once you have your systems in place, like people are like, oh, it would be great if you didn't have to deal with those students. I'm like, I actually think that's like amazing.
Oh, I love dealing with students because you get a guarantor to sign on to, and it's like these guarantors are making six figures. At least the product that it's a luxury product.
Yeah, it depends, right? If you have a crappy product, then I wouldn't want to deal with the students either.
But good luck getting that kind of like mom and dad co-signing in their jobs that they have. Like good luck getting that kind of tenant in a multifamily property. It's not going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, you got mom and dad like owning companies, especially like stuff I own, like very well to do.
If there's ever a missed rent payment, you email the tenant and CC the mom. That's paid within an hour, and you'll never get a late payment again from that tenant. So
yeah, it's interesting, like the way students fear their parents.
Oh yeah,
they
I
do
mean,
not
I
want
still
their
do.
Parents.
If I get an angry text from my dad right now, I'm worried. You know what I mean? And I'm 26 years old, so I don't think that goes away.
Man, that's wild. 26. Yeah, you're doing good, man. That's awesome. I'm glad to see you having the success. So. The new building, let's talk about the numbers on it.
All right. So the new building, I purchased this lot for $640,000. I put $50,000 into the existing house. So I'm $690 just to make it like more up to what I like to present as a product.
Okay.
So we're at $690 for land. Let's just do it as one product. That's going to be easier to do the math on. So the construction cost on one side will be 1.3 mil.
Okay.
And the construction cost for the other side will be $700,000. So you're 2 mil, let's call it 2.7 mil.
So you're rebuilding the house that was on the one side that you already put money into?
No, so I just renovated that to keep it, and then I'm going to build an addition onto the back of that. That addition comprises of 3 more units.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
The reason why, Andrew, just maybe someone's interested at home is because it's a 3,400 square foot house. Yeah. It's in great shape. To tear that down and rebuild it is phenomenally expensive. And I already have a 6-bedroom unit there, which is what I would build anyway. So why not just keep it for $50,000 instead of tearing it down and rebuilding it for like $300,000?
Yeah, so just build onto it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I have the lot size, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in for about $2 million on construction. Yeah. So then 2.69 for.
Yeah, let's call it 2.7.
Yeah,
so
2.7.
2.7 is what I'm in, and then it's appraised at for the construction loan, which is like a month or so ago. For $4,250, so $4 million a quarter for the project.
All right, so let's see here. Oh man, that's big leagues. That's awesome. So are you going to be a 75% refinance on that? Probably not.
No, I'm going to do
60, right?
60. Yeah, I'm going to do 60. Especially with
what's happening.
Yeah, with what's happening.
Lenders are going to be a little tighter on it too.
Yep.
All right, so 425. Okay, so 4.25 million, and what do you figure your rents are going to be? I know you were conservative.
Yeah, well, let's keep on conservative. So go 895 across 39 bedrooms.
All right, 39. That's both lots together.
Yeah, we're just going to do it as a project.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We'll be here
so
all day.
34.9 a month. That's all right. So $418,000 annually. That's not bad for gross rent. Okay, do you have any sort of indication what your taxes are going to be on that?
Yeah, so one side's $12,000, the other one's going to be about $9,500.
Okay, so $20,000-ish.
Yeah.
You already know the exact numbers?
Yeah, because there was a similar build that
you looked it up.
Yeah, I looked it up. Yeah, the property.
Okay, insurance maybe like $4,000 or $4,500.
Yeah, I'd say $5,000.
All right, maintenance 5%.
You can put whatever you want. I in-house manage it. So
well, yeah, for management, I haven't put anything, but yeah, management.
Yeah, the maintenance seems to be quite low when it's a new build, which is
of
nice.
course.
But whatever you want to put
just
in.
budgeting for life cycle.
Yeah.
So
whatever you
management,
want
I'm going to put like 0.5%,
Sure.
like which is just $2,000. You're not even going to be that. You're going to be
whatever you want to put for the numbers.
0.2% for management.
I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything here, so it doesn't matter to me.
$800. We're going to call it. Like it's just the stuff, like the incidentals, whatever.
And here, let me get my calculator out for the utilities.
Yeah.
So we'll do this in two separate ones. Go hydro and water for one.
Okay.
So we got 350 times 2 plus 200, which is 900 plus 700. So 1,600 per month for hydro and water.
1,600 across the two. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 325 per month is the gas bill
for both houses together.
Yeah. And the cool thing with actually, you know what? Go up a little bit. Go to 400 for that because I just saw that they're raising 20% Enbridge. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I hadn't yet, but
yeah, they're raising costs.
We'll find out.
So actually, really quick sidebar. This is why utility companies typically don't end up doing all that well during high inflation times, is because the cost to produce the gas, for example, is quite high. So it's tough to factor in for inflation on it. Like
because they have to be slower about their increases.
Yeah, it is a tricky asset. You would think otherwise, but
yeah.
So internet's cool because my electrician actually books it in where I have these hub commuters, and whoever is into tech's gonna laugh at that terminology because I don't know what they're called, but pretty much every unit, every floor has these like
access points.
Exactly.
So you just have one service for the whole two buildings.
I'll have to have two because one for each lot, just because of the size of them. But so I pay about 150. So go 300 per month for internet.
Yeah. There's probably a way you can get away with not having two. But.
Yeah, and then so the maid service is actually quite cheap, and the reason why is because everyone has a private bathroom. So all the maid is doing is cleaning 9 kitchens.
Okay.
On a monthly go. So you're about, let's say 9 hours, let's say, times 25. That's bi-weekly times 2. So your maid service will run you about $450 per month for the whole project.
All right. So every 2 weeks you said, or every one?
$450 is the monthly. I multiplied it by 2 already.
450. You're on top of this, Marko. It's good.
Well,
so yeah, 5,900 for that, and sort of like a $500 miscellaneous for anything comes up. Do you have anything for landscaping?
Yeah, we'll have to do something for landscaping, right? I don't know what it'll cost. Right now, I pay my guy $30 per cut. Does every other week, so $60 for cutting. The thing will be snow removal though, because I have a 10-car parking lot. You put whatever you think is appropriate. I don't know yet.
Let's just say 1,500. That'll be conservative.
But also, we didn't add in the revenue for the parking lot. That's another $500 per month. I do $50 per parking spot. So let's cancel those out. Pay for the snow removal.
So 50 times how much?
Well, 10. So 500 per month.
Times 12 months.
For the parking.
Yeah, that's the monthly. Okay. So yeah, I just added it to your rental income.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are gonna do all right on this one. So let's just see.
It'll be nice.
25-year amortization. You're going to be at like 5% interest rate. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, I know.
So you're going to, let's see, you're going to have like $150,000 into it, and you're going to have $13,000 a month in cash flow. That sound about right?
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit higher than $13,000 per month. Yeah. Oh, but it's because we went conservative on the rent, so that makes sense.
Yeah, like if you actually get rents, like we both know that you probably can.
Yeah,
it's gonna be. I mean, that's one building that's just life changing.
But for the sake of the podcast, let's be conservative and say $13,000 per month for that one. Yeah,
dude, not bad. I like this. Okay. Do your parents, did they ever have any interest in real estate or entrepreneurship or anything like that?
No, but my parents, hopefully if they accept, will both come work with me in Windsor next year. So my goal was always, actually like in university, my mom works at a factory, both my parents do. Mm-hmm. So in university, when I first started, when I was kind of broke, I guess, 17, 18, my background on my phone was my mom and her factory outfit. Mm-hmm. And like that was like my why, right? To get her out of that factory. So if they accept, my proposal would be nice for them to both come and join the family business next year as full-time employees. So that's the goal for 2023.
Dude, that'd be cool. So yeah, whereabouts do they live? So
they live in West Lorne. So anyone listening, maybe somebody knows about it, but it's about an hour and a half away from Windsor, and about 30 minutes from London. So around that area.
Okay, yeah, I know I've seen it on a map at some point.
Yeah.
Cool, man. That's it's an inspiring story, and it's inspiring that, like, a lot of people, like, it's hard to shake their upbringing, right? The way their parents thought, it's hard for them to let go of that and think differently. And like, what do you attribute it to?
I think I was just born with it. My parents
Yeah.
would probably agree with you because like ever since I was little, I was always trying to make a dollar and always talking about being rich and being wealthy, like to the point where my parents would always say, they used to always say spusti se. So spusti se in like Serbian, my language is like put yourself down, like put yourself on the ground, like because I always lived in the clouds,
Yeah.
my mom used to say. So it was just an internal thing. But like I was raised really, really well. Like I had amazing parents. Like they never kept up with the Joneses. They did not care what anybody else was driving, what anyone else was living in. They saved money. They had no mortgage on their house by 2008, which we came in Canada. They probably bought the house in 1997. So pretty quickly
Were you
paid
born
off
in
the
Canada
whole house.
or you were?
I was born in Canada. My brother was born in Croatia.
Okay.
So I learned a lot of good things. And like, I always say to my dad, if I ever grow up and be half the man that you are, that's a win for me. So I can't say that growing up in like a non-affluent house was any disadvantage at all. I think it was an advantage because like I learned so many great things from my parents. So
I mean, and there's no entitlement, right? Like everything you get, you earn.
For sure.
Yeah, like I grew up in a very like simple family. We didn't have a whole lot. My parents struggled with it, and it makes me appreciate anything I can achieve a lot more.
For sure, man. It's funny you say that because now where I've gotten to the point where I do have a little more freedom in terms of like financial standing. I don't know how to say that, but every step of the way, I've always felt like I've been rich, dude. Like when I made $25 an hour, I was like, oh, I'm making money. So I've always felt every step has been, fun for me. So
that's cool, man. So are you still like an active realtor?
Not really.
So you're not really pushing the business?
No, not really. Yeah, I'm not really as much of an active realtor. I like to help people though. I do get like some sort of satisfaction in that. So if it's like the right match, I will do it. But for probably 80% of clients, I don't take on.
Yeah. Do you refer that business to other people? Or?
Yeah, I have a couple people in Windsor that I trust, and it's not based off of who's my best friend. It's based off of who I think is the most capable to help that person because my name's attached to it. But I do usually push it off to someone, and I actually don't take a referral cut on it either at all. So
yeah, you just give it off to them.
Give it off. Yeah.
Well, I mean, clearly, like if you're evaluating your time, like these numbers, like the wealth that you're creating, like let's just go back to these numbers on this specific deal. And you're in the ground. I've been following your stories, so I know how that's going. You'll only have 150,000 of your own money sort of left in the deal, according to these numbers. Of course, that could change. Yeah. But you've got something that there's an extra 1.75 million in value and equity. Yeah. Right there. That's not bad. It's not a bad add to your net worth.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice. And then I'm building 2 more of those, essentially.
Yeah. How long do you think it'll be before? So we're in end of June right now. How long will it be until that one's done?
So that will be done by January, and it will for sure be done by January. And as soon as it's done, January, I'm going to start the next one for September.
People move in January?
Yep. I'll have people move in January.
And back when we first started talking, I know you were going to manage things yourself. Then you found somebody that was going to manage your construction for you.
So I essentially use him almost as an assistant for certain things, like when I have a lot in another area. But I find that I just keep taking over construction anyway, just because I'm kind of like that personality. So for the projects in January, I'm not going to have him there with me. I'm just going to do them myself. But it's kind of like a team effort now. But
are you connected directly with all the trades that work?
Absolutely. Yeah. I handle everything. Any problem that comes up, it's me that deals with it. I'm on site every single day. I don't know that he's on site maybe, once a month or something.
How far do you live from these sites?
Very close.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even look at it as work. Like I want to be on site. And when I show up on site, and no one's there, I'm pissed. I'm like, why are we not doing anything?
Yeah, I know.
And that happens. 50% of construction is nothing's happening on the site. Right?
I love that you live close to it, man.
I'd love
it if Burlington numbers worked like Windsor numbers.
I think that the numbers will work wherever you go. It's about being creative about it because nobody's making that kind of profit on developments in Windsor either. There's a guy that built, and I won't say his name, but he built this like 8-story condo in downtown Windsor, and he was bragging to me about the profit he made with 3 partners, and it was less than the profit I'm making on Randolph Suites. And I thought it was funny because I didn't say anything about that development, but I don't know. I think that if you're good at what you do and if you're creative enough, it doesn't really matter where you are. You're going to figure it out, right?
Yeah, there's no excuse for anybody.
I think in any market. I mean, if your market's decreasing 30% per annum, it gets a little bit more challenging.
There's does it make sense for me to try this? That's a different conversation. Like, could my time be spent better in this location? Maybe sometimes there's a logical argument for that.
For sure.
But like you said, like there's people making money everywhere, and
everywhere.
And there's always a way.
Money everywhere.
And I like
in the worst markets
Yeah.
in the worst, people are always making money.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the way they think about it.
Yeah.
What are you looking for? Because if you're looking for a reason why you can't, you find that. You're looking for a reason you can, you find that.
Well, even look at the S&P 500 is crashing 25% year to date, but then you look at Sanderson Farms up probably 4%. You look at Enbridge probably up 12-13%.
Yeah, the utility companies are going to do well. Yeah.
There's always people are always making money.
Yeah. So what would you do if you were scratch right now? Where would you start?
Like if I was starting from nothing?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be really excited about this time because I think you're going to have people that are going to get quite terrified and give up their assets for little to nothing. And I think now is the time to do a VTB. If you have no money right now, and someone's really itching to sell and they can't sell, and you propose a VTB, let's say you approach to 100 people and one says yes, that's a huge advantage. That could change your life because I think about it this way. If you can get the asset for 20% under today's market value, and you can lock in a rate that's going to be less than the rate within 8 to 12 months, I think you'll do quite well with that asset over the next 5 to 7 years because you're already pretty much taking that hit, the 20% hit off the top from people's fear. Yeah. You're locking in a lower cost of borrowing.
So you're saying give them even less than the current mortgage
rates. Of course. They're terrified.
Of course. Actually, you're right because I remember John Kepler telling me he'd get people in at 1 to 2% on the mortgage rates. And this was back when, interest rates were 2.5 to 3.
This is the time to do the VTB. People will give it to you way below the cost of borrowing. And if you can convince them to fix it for a little bit of time, they just want to exit the asset. They're worried that they're not going to be able to exit the asset. So, if I was new, that'd be a great way to start. I think you'll do quite well.
Just go in and
make sure
Windsor still be the market. Obviously.
Doesn't matter. I don't care for Windsor more than I care for another city. I think that if I was in Hamilton, I'd be doing the same thing. I think that if I was in...
No, the max student rental pricing is a lot different, though.
I think student rental pricing, you'll be capped towards your competitors. I think that if I was in Waterloo, for example, or Hamilton, or even a London, I'd be higher rent than I am right now.
I think so. Generally speaking, you should be. Yeah.
So you'll pay a little bit more for acquisition. The cost of construction is going to be relatively the same.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like the $1,250 a room thing blew me away.
It's nuts, right? And in Waterloo, I know a company, Res One is what they're called. They do a fantastic job. JD Developments is who builds it, but they do $1,000 per room for 5-bedroom, 5-bath units.
Well, here's where I knew that there was like a disconnect because I was pricing high, like extremely high, to the point where people would say like that's ridiculous that I was getting $860 a room, and I'm like, well, look at Lux, like. You have two people sharing these apartments and they're like, I don't know what they were paying.
They're bond suites too, like they're bedrooms with no windows and stuff.
Yeah. They would, exactly. They would have a curtain dividing wall because they couldn't actually make it
that
multiple
project's,
bedrooms.
Masonville Yards, I think it's called or something. Yeah. The one that you're talking about right now with the curtains in London.
Oh yeah? They changed the name?
Oh, then that maybe you're talking about the original Lux. They also just built Masonville Yards. They have the same bond suites. Pretty much any city.
Yeah.
Student housing, I'll probably know the main players in the building.
Okay, so basically in that one, one kitchen they're sharing, no backyard. They're in an apartment, 2-bed, and then I guess they would sometimes have 4 people living in them because the 2 beds was actually that's all they could build. They were in the floodplain, but they would have a curtain dividing wall, and they basically marketed it as a 4-bed, and these people were paying like $800, some case $750.
Well, now they just moved up. I was reading, just to know how obsessed and much of a geek I am with student housing, I was reading through the Reddit forums of their Masonville Yards project just because I want to know what do they build, what price point do they go with, how did the customer react to that, what are the customers' complaints about living there, how can I make my product better and learn from the mistakes that they've made. But I read in the forum that they were raising it up to like $2,600 for the 2-bedroom unit, which would be $1,300 per person.
Yeah.
So that's quite high.
And I was starting to see like individual kids were paying quite a bit for something that I thought was inferior to houses. It's just like the houses, it was for some reason, you're getting 6 people instead of 2. It's obviously a little bit harder to sell. But I knew that the potential was there, and it's interesting to see, the rates creeping up. And I think in the luxury side of things, there's always going to be those people that are willing to pay more, especially when they're parents. To their parents, $1,300 a month isn't even a big deal.
So the luxury side is such a beautiful. You have a responsibility as a luxury provider that you have to build a great product, right?
Yeah.
You really do, and you have to stand by your product and make it great. But the benefit of the luxury side is you really have no ceiling, and you create the ceiling because our targeted market is such a unique market because it is the king of flex, is what I call these students, right? So they want the IG photo and at that restaurant that costs $100 for a steak, even though the steak only tastes like a $60 steak, but they can post that Instagram story that they're at that restaurant. If you can build a brand behind your accommodations and students, you can position it in a way that it becomes a flex. And then you have a wait list on your properties. And then you can really, who knows what your ceiling is on that price point. It's difficult to build a brand and do it properly for longevity. But if you can do that, I think there's a significant amount of money to be made.
Here you are asking me about quartz.
I don't think I'm going to quartz.
No, you got to do quartz.
Hey, man.
Are you a luxury brand or aren't you?
Hey, if you're building 40 bathrooms a year, look at the price difference between the quartz and the Home Depot.
Quartz
and
in
it
the
hurts.
bathroom. No, I agree with you. Quartz in the bathroom isn't needed. Definitely in the kitchen.
In the kitchen for sure. Yeah. We'll go granite or quartz. We'll do a nice luxury finish. But the bathroom one, I mean, when you're building that many bathrooms, it's crazy. Like,
I don't really believe in losing value on that. I know it's a few extra $100. Like, I don't know, what did you say it was? An extra like $500 or something? Yeah.
So the thing that you have to think is like, my refinance value is not going to change.
True. It's true. It's
and
an investment
now
of your
the question
dollars.
now the question you have to make yourself logically: what is the increased annual revenue that I can have from that granite countertop in the bathroom versus what is my cost of capital, my opportunity cost of investing that capital in a different place?
Possible to quantify.
Well, you can get an idea of where you're at as an investor and what that will bring. And I don't think it will change my rents at all. And I think that I'm a fairly decent investor that I can get produce a return. So I have to make the business decision.
Yeah. I think it's more up to the salesperson, so to speak. If you want to draw attention to that as a salesperson, I would get the value out of it. I would use that as a way to push people over the edge and say, like, we didn't even spare expense. Check out, even these bathrooms have quartz. No one else is doing that, and I would use that as a flex.
Yeah, but I can also use the
there's lots you can do.
Nice smile.
There's lots you can do. No, I agree. No, I'm not.
No, there's a lot of things. You know what? You always have to come down to those decisions in development. But that's one of those I'll probably pass on.
Cool, man. Okay, so anything you wished I had asked you about that I haven't?
No, your assistant asked me, and I said there's no specific questions. Just let the conversation go.
Yeah, that's what I typically do. And I'll get those emails, and I do look at them, but this is why I ask, because I don't want to forget. Like, I probably saw maybe a note, but
no, I didn't ask. I didn't care. I'm just here to kind of chat anyway. So
it's all. Hey, man, it's always great getting your perspective on things, because I think the big thing you bring is mindset. You obviously know your stuff, and you're just not willing to accept anything but what you want it to be.
Definitely.
And you'll just keep going until you get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love having you here, having you on the show, and we'll keep you coming back regularly.
Awesome, I appreciate it.
And so where do people reach you if they want to follow you?
Yeah, so for my day-to-day, I actually post Instagram stories all the time of like my actual business. So that's Marko Agbaba. Maybe we can put some spelling up for them to follow. That's where you want to follow me for like day-to-day. If you want like lessons and you're a beginner investor, go to my YouTube channel. I actually think, if you watch all those videos, you'll have a decent understanding of how the finances work behind real estate. I'm not going to post any more videos, but I don't think I need to. I think what's there is a good enough library for people to learn. So if you want, don't even worry about subscribing. Just watch those videos. But if you want the day-to-day, Instagram's where it's at.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, appreciate it. And it'll be fun to watch where the numbers end up on this this next one.
We'll do this again in 12 months and see where it goes.
Sounds good. We'll do a recap.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Marko.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.